again, this is the second example of classes and objects, and in this video we are just trying to take one more examples, and with that examples we'll try to explain that how the classes should be designed and how the objects are made. So in this class we are just going to take another example, and here I'm naming it as POL, it's called profit or loss. So it will have the two variables in CP and int SP. CP for cost price, these are private, keep in your head. No tag is there by default. The elements and the members of the class are simply private. Now the public, so void get data, again I will have to pass two values for them because the name of this function only is to initialize the variables. So I'll just pass them two integer values because the CP and SP both are integers. So the SP and CP will be initialized with these two values. X will go into CP, the content of X will definitely go into CP, and the content of local variable Y will go into SP. So now this way that you can say the variables have been initialized. So now just show function. So here inside you see that I have defined the get data inside the function, so it inside the class body, so they are called inline functions. Like if you define the functions inside the class body, they are called inline functions. Now what is the difference between the inline function and the other type of functions? Inline functions just work just like working like the macros. Like whenever the execution of the programming will begin at the name of this function, the codes inside those functions can be just copied. However, in general the functions of a C++ cannot be executed, cannot be called, or cannot be operated without the involvement of the CPU. So CPU, you know that the CPU is busy doing so many things, and wasting the cycles of the CPU is called the wasting the time or performance of the machine. So it's suggested that whenever you have to do petty ordinary things, then you can define inside the class, it will automatically become inline functions. So this is one way. Like if you define a class, if you define a function inside the class, it will automatically become inline functions, and if you define it outside the class body and just attach the keyword inline, it will also become the inline functions. So inline functions are those functions which are executed without involving the CPU, so they save the overhead cost of the CPU and they enhance the performance of the applications. So these two functions get data in this example, they have been defined inside the body of the class, so they are naturally inline functions. Now I'm just trying to create object of the class POL, and then I'll be passing two values, and I'll just see how the work like the object calls the functions. There will not be any difference, but it just saves the CPU overhead cost. So POL, now PL dot get data, and I'll pass the two values. In the previous example I just defined those functions outside the class body. In this example I am defining it inside, I'm deliberately making it inline function. So just to explain you that there are two type of functions, normal functions and inline functions. Normal functions involves, inline functions cannot do difficult tasks, like inline functions cannot call another functions, inline functions cannot do the heavier tasks like running the loops, etc. So if you want to have a loop, or if you want to call the other functions from inside the function, then you cannot make them inline, because inline functions just do petty ordinary simple things, like just like printing a line or two or assigning the variables. But they are handy because our program is made up of large number of things and they're also important. Now what's the next?